Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Tim Jones Whoopty here, and today I want to talk about why I think everyone is wrong about the Backrooms movie. So I've seen the Backrooms movie twice now, and I gotta say it's an amazing movie. No spoilers yet. If you haven't seen it, my review, I think it's a 10 out of 10 movie. I think the story is there, the cinematography is great. If you like psychological horror, then it's definitely a movie for you, and I think you'll enjoy it. Now, spoilers. So click off. All right, so for this video, I have 5 main theories that I want to talk about. Number 1, still lifes are dead people. Number 2, Clark's ex-wife is the still life that we see in the dinner scene. Number 3, Clark killed his wife. Number 4, Clark was luring people into the backrooms along with the pirate. And number 5, Mary dies at the end of the movie. Well, let's just break these down. Why do I think that still lifes are dead people? Well, it's pretty simple, really. First, we get a lot of the theories going around are that the backrooms is a type of way to remember people. It's the backrooms is remembering people, and this is how they're remembering them, right? And what do you do when people die? You remember them. People might say that, well, why is Clark in the backrooms as a still life? I believe that Pirate Clark was seen as a different entity than Clark in the backrooms. We see that at the end of the commercial, the chair breaks and Clark then becomes out of character. He takes the costume off right after that. That's when we see that the backrooms most likely remembered everything in that scene. So then I would go on to venture to say that it remembered Clark as the pirate as a separate entity, so therefore it thought that that version of Clark, Captain Clark, died. This also goes along with my other theory that Clark killed his wife, which I have quite a bit more evidence for, and that would be then why we would see her at the end, or in the dinner scene, with all the other still lives. I don't like the theory that you become a still life from being in the backrooms, because Clark was in there for 4 days and he was just going crazy. He wasn't turning into no still life, son. He was just a regular degular, bruh. I don't know about no freaking turning into a still life, none of that. Number 2, Clark's ex-wife is the still life that we see in the dinner scene. Now, why do I believe this? This scene is crucial to understanding. We see Clark begin to talk about, he's like, well, there's, some guy, let me really get into character. There's some guy in a striped shirt, and he's out and about. There's some guy in a wheelchair. He looks behind him and doesn't say anything. He just, and then there's someone. Then he goes and says, hit the lights. I've tried this exercise with her before. It doesn't really go anywhere. And this is the part that's crucial. He says, it's still my house anyways. Why would he say that to a random still life? He would probably say it to his wife. So that is my reasoning for that. And this next part really ties it all together. Clark kills his wife in the movie. Now you're like, Tim Jones Whoopty, why would you think that? Well, in the movie, we see that Clark is sleeping basically in the furniture store. And we don't know why he's doing this. Maybe because he's lonely and sad and doesn't have a house and he's broke and a chud. But one of the nights when the power goes out or is going weird or whatever, we see him specifically look at the picture of him and his ex-wife that he has on the bedstand. And we see him do this. We then immediately cut to him driving. We're like, where's he driving? He's listening to his therapist's audiobook, which is talking about mental loops and mind loops and all that. And then we see him pull up, presumably outside of his ex-wife's house. He kind of settles in, and then the camera cuts. That is crucial. That is important. Why would the camera cut right there? We don't see anything beyond that point. But then, if we're to believe that Clark's ex-wife is the still life, and that dead people are still lives, that's what still lives are, people that died in real life, it all just makes sense. Also, we see that when Pirate Clark, Captain Clark, comes into the room during the dinner scene, the still life that we presume, or I presume, is his wife, runs away into the corner, which shows that Clark was probably a very abusive, very toxic person. And then also, You're like, Tim Jones Whoopty, how could Clark kill anybody? We see his freaking assistant manager's beheaded head in the freaking fridge. Now, I don't think it was Pirate Clark that did that, okay? Because Pirate Clark is freaking taking bites out of Clark. He wasn't freaking perfectly cutting off a head. So this dude Clark was obviously in some way comfortable killing people. And we already see that he's unstable in the therapist scenes. So I think it wouldn't be crazy to venture to say that he's already ready to kill people. But anyways, I digress. Number 4, Clark was luring people into the back rooms. Now you're like, whoa, that's absurd. How could he do this? Well, I have some reasons for this. First of all, when we see him go get his coworkers, Kate and Nate or whoever they are, whatever their names were, we see that when they first walk in, a lot of the furniture that was in there is taken out and moved out. So this shows that Clark's been in the back rooms a considerable amount, right? Which is important. Then he lets that dude Nate go down into the little den or whatever. Why would he want him to specifically go down there? You know, why was that the place that he wanted him to go only? Important side note that I missed is also the fact that when he comes back up after pulling him up after seeing the entity, it's basically like quiet, like, you know, they're hustling. He says, "What kind of knot is this?" Now, why would Clark tie a knot that tight if he was just letting him down there just to check it out and then come back up? Well, I think it's because Captain Clark and Clark at that point had already known each other and already become friends. We later see when Clark finds Kate on the other side of the wall, Captain Clark, instead of immediately trying to kill Clark like how he did his coworker, he simply picks up the camera. Now, why would he differentiate picking up the camera when he sees Clark versus just straight up killing him? At that point, he did not know that that was himself as a regular human being. And then also later on in the movie, we see him leave a voice message to his therapist saying, "I've opened the window, I'm not coming back." And then when she gets to the place, there are wind chimes, which I believe is one of the points of the wind chimes is it's a lure. It's showing that the Backrooms is luring people in one way or another. So I think he would set those up so that as a way to lure anyone who might possibly come into the store into the Backrooms. We also see at the end, the therapist hold up a picture where for some reason they tried blacking out Captain Clark. He's like, "Is this the man you were looking for? Son, what's that freaking black box right next to him?" We don't know at what point in time that picture took place. It could have easily taken place before he had his coworkers come into that room. Okay. And then with all this, number 5, Mary dies at the end of the movie. Now this, you're like, whoa, Tim Jones Whoopty, you're jumping to conclusions. Let's look at the facts. We see that Mary is captured by the Async people. She's taken in for interrogation and she begins to be interrogated. You know, they go through the motions or whatever, and first she notices that he's lying to her big time. He looks over when she asks, "Have you been in there before?" He goes, "Yes, I have." "Cracker, you ain't been in the back room, son." We see that happen. And then she is smart. She's dealt with so many people. She knows that he's immediately lying, right? And then after that, she asks, "What's gonna happen to me?" And he's stone cold. He's like, "It's not up to me, son. You're dead." That is the last thing that she says. We then hear her like the noise for her starts to kind of drown out. She's not really listening to him. And then we hear the wind chimes, the wind chime motif. The next thing we see is, you know, her rooms and all her stuff and her stuff being remembered in the back rooms, and then her as a still life, which if we believe that still lifes are dead people, that would mean she's dead. But I think it was kind of a closure thing for her because as we see, she's always was really close to the piece of cement that her mother's hand was in. And she uses that to quote unquote defeat the Backrooms, but also let go of her trauma. So once she let go and accepted her trauma and, you know, let that part of her go, She was ready to, it felt like that was probably the most therapeutic experience of her life from a therapist standpoint. She accepted that she cannot only not save everybody, but that she needed to save herself, which she did. So she probably accepted her fate, didn't answer any more questions, and therefore was killed by Async. Some other things, some other little things, if you're still interested, all the piles of furniture and stuff that we see, I believe that was from Captain Clark, the Captain Clark variant, because they harp on the fact that Clark believes that he is an architect. Well, not really, but in his head he is. So in the still life versions of him head, he probably wanted to still be an architect, so that's why we see all the furniture piled up. It doesn't understand what a house is. It can't build anything in the backrooms necessarily. It's, you know, a 7'7" homunculus monster, but it's setting up piles of furniture is to kind of, you know, be a quote-unquote architect. There's some other stuff that I don't necessarily remember from my theories. I'll have to watch it again and again and again and again. But yeah. Oh, I lied. There's one more thing. I believe that the Backrooms is slowly getting better at recreating people. Why do I think that? The only thing that can debunk this theory is the fact that Clark said that the more it remembers, the more it forgets, which kind of goes against what I was saying, but he don't know everything. Let me tell you why I think that. There's two scenes that I stick out for me. One is when he first enters the pool rooms with a VHS. Well, we see a face in the wall, and you're like, what significance does that hold? Why would there be a face in the Backrooms if it wasn't an attempt to create a still life? We see later in the just a little bit later in the Christmas tree scene, there is people coming out of the floor. Why are the people coming out of the floor? I think that was early attempts to create the still lifes, because they are like made out of carpet and they're all, you can see like all of their muscle definition, like they don't even have skin basically. And then just a few seconds later, we see possibly the development of that, which is still lifes that can move around, can interact and stuff like that, but maybe don't feel anything. And then there is 3 still lifes that we see, or that are like kind of like pinpointed for what this theory can be. We see the man in the button up. He is made of straight up like stuffing, nasty, slimy stuffing. Then he goes to skin what we believe is his ex-wife's head, which is like the still life variant, and she has like a red scalp as if there is blood. And then Clark's still life, which we would believe then maybe is the most recent still life, literally bleeds when it is hit. So I believe it's getting better and better at creating people in that regard. But that is going to do it, guys. If you enjoyed this theory at all, or these theories that I have, leave a comment down below, leave a like. If you think I'm an idiot and stupid, you can say that too. I don't really care. I hate you. No, I don't. But yeah, I think this is an excellent movie. A 10 out of 10. I love what Kane Pixels has been doing. I've been following them since the first video, and I think what they can do is really, or what he can do, is really going to be something special. And I hope he continues the series and does a lot more with it. But yeah, it's gonna be it. See you guys.